All right, so if you want to start to be a freelance writer in 2024, one of the things that you have to have is good writing skills. Now, of all the jobs that you see, one of the requirements, of course, is to have good writing or breaking down technical concepts into easy to read writing, right? You're going to see those things. I can show you what that means. So for example, here is a job ad that I saw on LinkedIn the other day, and it says, my team is hiring a content marketing specialist to contribute to the content engine at Alabar. Now, this is what she really is seeking. If you love breaking down technical concepts into actionable content and engaging social hooks, please send me a message. And here is another one for SEMrush. If you are a skilled SEO content writer, they want someone that has deep SEO experience. So how can you integrate keywords and analyze search intent? They want in-depth knowledge of long-form writing best practices. You write comprehensive, high-quality content where every word adds value, cutting the fluff and focusing on helping the reader. This is what most clients want. They want in-depth writing that's comprehensive and high quality. High quality is so arbitrary. What the heck does high quality content really mean? They want hands-on experience and expertise and the willingness to go the extra mile. So really understanding their product. So for this step-by-step writing skills for freelancers for 2024, I want to focus on the specific things that you might see in a job ad that is focused on writing so that you can improve your writing skills so that you feel confident in applying to these jobs. I do want to say before I get into this tutorial that I have a masterclass on B2B writing article for $1,000. All right. It is my process to write high paying, high converting blog posts. So I can't really go too much into this. What I can do is just give you the guidelines to help you. And if you really want to focus on improving your writing, then I suggest that you go and enroll in that masterclass. The first step I want you to focus on is making your writing more conversational. So when you hear that, you're probably thinking, well, I'll just write as I talk. And while that can be a good strategy, it's not what people mean when you write conversationally. The parameters to writing conversationally is that it's in the second person, that you are eliminating fluff writing, and we'll get into what fluff words are, that you provide examples to what you are talking about, that it's descriptive, and that the words that you use are words that a fourth grader or even a third grader could really understand. They can read it and know what you're talking about in the context of your sentence. Okay. Maybe not a third grader, but a fourth and fifth grader for sure. All right. So you want to use simpler words when you're writing conversational. Words that I really don't like using is utilize. That is robotic. I'm thinking ChatGPT probably uses utilize a lot. Just use. Okay. I also don't like the word impactful. I think it's become part of our lexicon. I think that's the term where it is now a word. But when I first started in 2014, impactful was not considered a word. It just wasn't. So I still don't use words like that. And I'll give you some examples. We'll go through something, but I just want to get my thoughts out right now. When I'm thinking of fluff words, and just realize that I do use some of these words, and I'll tell you why, but you don't want to use all of them in your content. So using words like just, also, even sometimes because, that is a big one that I try to avoid. And really is one that I don't always avoid. And there are other words that you can search online for these fluff words, but those are the main ones that I guess that I feel a lot of writers do. And there are some instances where I do add a just in there. I do add an also in there, or a because it makes that conversational. But if you find that it's too wordy, then that is not conversational. And ChatGPT gives you wordy content. So let's write a paragraph, how to find the perfect puppy for a family. Okay. Now I am using ChatGPT 4. It does produce better content than 3.5, the free version. So just be aware of that. But it still gives me highly fluffy writing. It gives me too many metaphors or similes. It really flowers the writing that it produces that I don't like. So finding the perfect puppy for a family requires careful consideration. Just that term, requires careful consideration, is not conversational. Okay, so think about that. First, assess your family's lifestyle, not conversational. The assess part is not conversational, including activity levels, not conversational, living space, and any allergies. This will help you determine the size and energy level and breed, not conversational. So if I take these first sentences, how do I make this conversational? Let's just copy these. All right. So what I would do to make this conversational is I would add a hook. If this is the beginning of my blog post, I want to draw the reader in. So I'm going to ask them a question like, interested in getting a puppy for your family? ? How conversational is that? Right? Versus finding the perfect puppy for a family requires careful consideration. Like, I just all of a sudden turned that one sentence into, well, are you interested in getting a puppy for your family? Ooh. And then finding the perfect puppy doesn't have to be difficult. I could put, it doesn't have to be challenging. It doesn't have to be a headache. I can insert words that draw a picture in your mind that feeds on the emotion. So finding the perfect puppy doesn't have to be difficult. Sure, there's all the stuff you have to think about, like the size of your house, how active your family is, and whether or not anyone has allergies to pet dander. Okay, so in this, I'm adding keywords. If you've noticed, I'm walking them down through things that they can visualize. Okay, so let's say finding the perfect puppy is the keyword. Pet dander is associated with finding the perfect puppy. Okay, that's another related size keyword for you. These aren't necessarily keywords, but within this context, I can write my post about it. So I've set up this idea of interested in getting a puppy for your family. It doesn't have to be difficult. Sure, there's all this stuff you have to think about, like this and this and this. I have to flip the script, but you're in luck. This guide will help you figure out what the best puppy is for a family. Okay, that's another keyword. Let's just say we'll figure out the best puppy for a family and give you a checklist of all the items you need to make your new puppy feel welcomed. So what I took here about finding the puppy, making sure you know the breed and the energy level and all that, I sort of condensed it into this highly conversational introduction. I did not touch on all of these, so this is just a rough draft. If I had to include the breed and the energy level of the dog, I would find a way to include that in here. How active your family is, and the breed, and the energy level of breed. Okay, I can add something like that where I add an M dash or an N dash. Again, another way to make it more conversational, to break up what you're reading. You also don't want to write super long sentences. This is a super long sentence for me, so that's why I added the N dash. I would probably just work on this to streamline it even more so that it is shorter. But if you do notice, in conversational writing, especially online, you are fitting your sentences like Tetris. I have this length and this length are the same. Then I have a longer length. Then I have a super short length. And then I have a longer length. You want to know what I'm going to try and do next? Have a shorter length next, and then a semi-middle length, and then a longer length. I'm going to do that with my writing. Now, I may not do that off the bat. I may do that after the fact to make it easier to read. But I want you to see how something like making this conversational really improves the quality of your writing. And it will take time. What I like to do when I started writing online was to add these questions. You're talking to someone, so make your writing as if you're talking to someone. Hey, you're interested in getting a puppy? puppy, well, I bet you you might think it's a struggle, but it really isn't. I recently got a puppy. Like, you're going to bring story in, things like that, where if a client allows it, you can bring your story in. And I do that often. If I'm talking about digital products, I created a digital product. Here's my process, things like that. Oh, you want to write an ebook? I wrote an ebook. This is what I did to complete my ebook. I add that level of an example of storytelling because I want people to actually read my content. It is not just skimmable content. Okay. I don't want to create that. And clients don't pay top dollar for skimmable content, right? So you have to draw the reader in with these conversational elements. Another aspect of it is to be concise and clear in what you're saying. Oftentimes I do say some of these ways versus being explicit and clear. The 3 methods to finding a puppy is this, and this. A checklist of 5 different items, right? I'm being very clear and concise, and that goes a long way in your writing. Now, I don't always do that, but I try to, with my ideas, explain it in a way, because people have told me in the past that I do explain concepts very easily. Let me just find something where, okay, so these tips provided are not only practical, but also incredibly insightful. It's clear that you understand the challenges. So from the writing, these are the challenge. Like, it's clear that I know what I'm talking about. And people just say excellent post and all that. This was such a valuable and informative blog post. So with my conversational writing, with being clear and concise, I'm also adding a level of information, in-depthness, making it easy to understand these terms and ideas and breaking them down. Now, I do talk about that in Freelance Blogging in a Weekend, so I can't really go into the process of how I break these things down to make it easy to read, but you can look at my content and see how I am doing it. But that's, in a nutshell, when you're writing, the biggest thing, like I said, is to make it conversational. Another thing that some clients want, and you saw in one of the job ads, was these social hooks, these hooks to get people interested in your writing. I like to do questions like this. So if I wasn't going to do this, I can draw from a stat. So let's just make up a stat here. Did you know that 67% of households have at least one dog? Like that. And you'll be like, oh, well, that could be like, of course, maybe instead I could do like only 37% or something. Like, I want a startling fact that, it contradicts to what you believe, perhaps. So 37% of households only have one dog. Or no, I can even, a better stat might be, did you know that of the people who own a dog, over 70% end up giving away their dog due to a conflict in the family or something like that, like whatever the stat says. So like, this opens up something intriguing, like, oh, okay, so people who have a dog are giving them up, like most of them. Why is that? Well, maybe it's because they didn't pick the puppy the right way. Maybe they didn't realize these things, and this post can help them. So my angle will be more like that focused, like, oh, well, it's because, if you end up just getting a dog without really thinking about it, that could happen to you. If you don't want that to happen, and if you want a dog to live many years with your family, then this is a guide for you. Learn how to pick the right dog or puppy for your family, right? So that's a new angle from this stat that I created out of my head, but let's say it's a real stat. So you can use something like a stat, a question, things like that, something that's startling, something that is thought-provoking. Okay, so those are the writing skills that I use to create conversational writing. Now, another thing that clients want is actionable writing. What is actionable writing? How do you write actionable writing? That is where you are very explicit in what you are teaching. Okay, in your article. I wrote a post, which is basically a tutorial on how to create a paid newsletter. In my content for my client, I give you the steps to create a paid newsletter. And look on the side here, 7 steps to creating a paid newsletter. It's in my post. So if you click on it, I go through step by step. Okay, this is actionable. First, you need to decide on the topic. Sit down. I even tell you, sit down, get comfy and do some brainstorming. Like, I'm telling you, this is the action you need to do. You need to decide on your pricing model. I give you different ways to decide on that. You can look at pricing benchmarks. Take the time to look at that. More benchmarks. You can just look at what you want to make and go do reverse engineering on how many subscribers you need to make that much money. Or you can look at the value that you're producing and set a price on that, right? Like, I give you different actions to price your newsletter. You have to choose the platform. I give you a rundown on these platforms. You have to set up the system. Like, I go step by step, making the post highly actionable and high paying for me, right? For this client. That's the type of writing that clients are seeking. Now, if you're thinking, well, Elna, I just want to do like lifestyle writing. I want to write for like Reader's Digest and maybe for Pop Sugar and things like that. Well, it's a little bit different, of course. I don't teach that type of writing, but lifestyle and journalistic writing has their own formula. Of course, they do also want to be clear and concise. Their writing is even more to the point. It is more cutting the fluff completely. It is very streamlined. And I always, if I get stuck in being too wordy and I can't figure out what I'm going to write, I can ask ChatGPT to help me, but I also look at magazine articles and just see how those journalists are writing the content. For my client, there are a couple journalists that are writing for that client. So I can always just look at their blog posts and see like, okay, how are they structuring this sentence, this topic? What sentence structures are they using? That helps me figure out how to tell what I want to say. Okay. So even though I've been doing this for, almost a decade of writing online, I still do trip up on certain things. I still need help on all that. But the one thing that I do have is this idea of breaking concepts down to make it easy to understand and having my writing be clear and concise, conversational, and for a lot of people, very inspirational or inspiring. All right, so hopefully that helped you. And if you want to know the differences between, let's say, content writing, which this tutorial helped you with content writing, versus copywriting, which I think is something that you should understand, check out this video that I have that dives deep into the differences between those types of writing styles. All right, and make sure to like this video, and I'll see you in that video. Thanks.